Up a little bit?
Yeah, there you go.
Y'all tell me when you like it.
A little bit, Mayor. There you go.
All right, everybody good?
Go ahead.
All right, good afternoon, thank y'all for coming. A little bit before 11 o'clock last night, our shift lieutenant was flagged down by a motorist. And the motorist informed him that her sister and her husband, her sister and the sister's husband were involved in a domestic situation at their apartment and that shots had been fired. So the shift lieutenant and a couple of officers responded immediately to the scene. On their way, we learned from dispatch that the wife had been shot multiple times during this domestic situation. When they arrived on scene, they got to the doorway. The door was closed. They could hear the wife inside screaming for help. The subject had barricaded himself in the residence, so to speak. And I have to tip my hat off to our officers last night in this situation. We don't have the luxury of waiting for additional help. We've got to go in and help this woman who is in a severe time of need. They breached the door to go in and help her, and immediately the officers took fire from the subject inside. Our lieutenant was shot in the foot. Fortunately, that's the only shot that we sustained. The police department, the suspect immediately was up the stairs. He went to the back of the apartment complex and jumped out the second-story window. We had officers, containment team around the perimeter of the residence. They were able to apprehend him immediately without any further injuries to anyone. We were able to get to the lady inside, the wife. She had indeed suffered multiple gunshot wounds. Paramedics were on scene immediately from the fire department. We rendered assistance and she was transported to a local area hospital. She is in, I would say, critical but stable condition. Again, my hats are off to these police officers on this shift who they didn't care about their safety. They, at the time of need, they jumped in there and did what they had to do and helped this lady to survive this domestic violence situation. It's terrible. It's a tragedy, and our officer is going to be okay too.
Chief, can you talk about, one of the things I know we talk about a lot, especially during May, is how dangerous domestic violence situations are for responders, for the police. This could have gone so much worse. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. You never know what you're getting into when you hear the words domestic violence over the radio and we respond to that. You are going to assist people, whether they want that assistance or not, at their worst time. Their emotional state is through the roof. You never know what you're going to encounter. Fortunately for police officers, most of these situations turned out good. Some of them do not. This is one of those that could have gone really, really bad. You just never know, and we've got to fall back on our training and techniques and what we've learned to survive these incidences and offer how we offer the best assistance we can to those in need.
Chief, sometimes when it comes to domestics, you all don't know about them until you're in them. You don't know how old they are, days old, months old, years old, but you go at the time of the explosion. And that's one of the worst times for officers because he may be responding to one situation and walking to another. How does your training prepare you? What do you see, signs you look for, things to keep you safe?
Well, every incident is situational and different, and you're exactly right. They can evolve in the matter of seconds. We fall back on our training. We're pretty good. We better learn how to read people and read people quickly, and know how to transition to the appropriate level of force if force is needed, or whatever we have to do to render the best assistance to alleviate and neutralize the problem at hand. So I mean, I can't give you a ABC answer, but I can tell you that our training is there, and we have to be able to go to A to D to E, whatever the case is, immediately.
And this wasn't you all's first time to respond to a domestic?
No, sir.
So what do you learn from one that you take into the others?
Well, Each one is different. Each one can be life-threatening in the blink of an eye. And we ask our people, we fall back on our training and exercise the best common sense and just fall back on your police training. We've got to go, we've got to clean them up, and we have to survive them.
What pistol was he using? What pistol was he using? How many rounds did he get off?
There were several rounds. I don't know the number at the moment, a bunch. And there were 2 different caliber weapons in the apartment. One was a 9mm and one was 45 caliber.
Chief, can you talk about this particular family? Had you responded to things at their residence before?
Clinton Police Department has encountered the suspect before in a similar situation, and he's known to us, but, yes, we have.
What are his prior arrests?
There is a prior domestic violence arrest, and there are a couple of other misdemeanor arrests. We haven't encountered him on a felony charge as of yet. He is charged with 2 felony counts as of last night or this morning: aggravated domestic violence and aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer.
Anything else you'd want to tell us that we wouldn't know to ask him?
I don't think so. He's had his initial appearance this morning and being held with no bond. The judge feels like he is a direct threat to the community. He shot his wife and he shot a police officer. And at this time, he's going to be held with no bond.
Is there body cam footage of the incident?
Yes, there is. And at the proper time, we may be able to release some of that. Right now, it's still an ongoing investigation. And but yes, we do have some footage.
Mayor, can we ask you a question?
Certainly.
You were just telling me a second ago about the flag that you guys had put up for first responders and city workers, public works folks. Can you talk about kind of the fact that this is an example of why we need to honor those folks?
Well, yeah, we have been flying the flags of the military services for the last year or two. From May until December. This year I've added the flags for public works, police, and fire to that. The fire department will be in January. The public works is in March. Police department in April. And then the services on the month that they were founded. And it's just a way to honor them and to have people maybe pause and think for a second about what we expect and what we need to be appreciative of. These officers' activities last night is a tragic example of that. And I too want to compliment the police department for their ability to use their training, to go with their gut instinct, to deal with what's happening to them at that moment, and then to have the professional and responsible action to not escalate this, although they had an injured police officer in their midst, to not escalate this any further than just an arrest. I don't know that a lot of people could really resist the temptation to have done worse than that. And that's just a tribute to their training, to their leadership from the chief, the captains, the lieutenants, and the way that they are trained and the way that they have conduct themselves. And we're very proud of that. This will be an opportunity too, and I'm going to add this in there. It's bad to shoot anybody. When you take a shot at a police officer, I'll be interested in watching very closely the DA's office and the judges and how they handle this as we go through, and I'll be tracking it very closely so that when he goes through his court opportunities, to make sure that he doesn't get just let out because that's what seems to happen a lot in Hinds County.
Well, and you touched on something that I think the rest of us had not necessarily thought about because we were focused on the wife being alive and the police officer being alive, but also the way things are today. Would you mind expounding on why it is kind of surprising that this suspect was not harmed?
Well, I just think it's because, police officers in the media at times, and I think sometimes on the streets get this bad reputation for what they do, and most people don't realize is that they are a reaction to things, and they are reacting to what's happening. Properly trained, properly led, they can hold their reactions within the boundaries of what is permissible and what isn't permissible. And that's what happened here. I'm sure there were thoughts, temptations, I mean, they're human beings. But at the same time, when it came to the point of arrest, they maintained their professional statute and made the arrest, and there weren't any excessive actions taken on the police part. There weren't any abusive actions taken. They simply arrested him, and now we're putting him back in, or putting him into the system and through the process. That's how it's supposed to work, and that's how the Clinton Police Force reacted, and that's why we're proud of them.
Well, and I guess to narrow down my questions just a little, in many cases, it's perfectly procedural to shoot at someone who even points a gun at you. So what do you, your guys obviously had great level heads in this case.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, and like I say, I mean, we do a great deal of training. We have gone through, every year we do a different scenario of a shooter in a school, a shooter in a church, a hostage situation, toxic a train accident, something that really puts in front of our police officers various situations to help train them in how to work and how they're supposed to react. And I think that when you continuously do that, it becomes reflex to do the right thing, and that's what happened here. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Rachel?